Hey guys, Mike Goldstein here of EasyDatingCoach.com. And we've got an amazing interview. One of my new friends we've got, and I'm so excited, Amy Waterman. Amy, say hello to everybody.
Hello, everybody. Thank you very much.
And how glorious does Amy look? She put on a dress. She's got flowers. She is here. She means business. And now we're talking, Amy. Um,
Woohoo!
we got such an exciting topic. We're talking about the pleasure principle, how pleasure makes every area of your life better, health, happiness, and especially love. So let's talk about it, Amy. Why is pleasure important?
Okay, so this is one of my favorite topics. I think pleasure is changing the world, and I'm not the only one who believes this. There are so many pleasure revolutionaries out there right now. Mama Gina, Regina Thomas Howard's one, Dr. Christiane Northrup's another. So we've got everybody, all the latest people are preaching pleasure. So why? Like, why is pleasure so important and so new, and why should we care, right? So one of the really interesting things to come out of just the medical field, and this a lot of the research is done here by Dr. Christiane Northrup, is that pleasure is actually a sign from our body that everything is working as it should be. So Dr. Christiane Northrup did this research on this molecule in the body called nitric oxide. And nitric oxide is what helps blood flow more smoothly through the body. Incidentally, is also one of the mechanisms behind Viagra. So this is important stuff. This is like the spark of life. And one of the key ways to trigger more nitric oxide is pleasure. And so this is really weird for people like me who grew up thinking that pleasure is for lushes, it's for hedonists, it's for people who are not career women who are trying to, make it and succeed in the world. Pleasure is just a luxury. Who needs it? It's like a little bit of light entertainment. But what we're finding out now is actually pleasure is not optional. It's essential. A book came out several years ago called The Pleasure Immune Connection. They have actually found out that your immune system works better when you get regular doses of pleasure. And so pleasure could be actually the prescription for dealing with chronic illness and a whole bunch of other things. And we haven't even gotten into pleasure and love yet. So how's that for you, Mike? Did you know all that wonderful stuff?
No, this is brand new to me, and that's why I'm so happy you're here. All right, so that we're totally on the same page, how do you define pleasure?
Yeah, so this is a really good question. So sometimes we think of pleasure as just those things that we're told bring us pleasure, right? Washing your hair with herbal essences will give you intense bursts of pleasure. Wearing Armani or Dior will give you enormous pleasure based on a price tag, right? What we've done is we've started to believe what marketers say. Marketers say, you buy our product, you will feel pleasure. This is not what I'm talking about at all. So what I'm talking about is pleasure as a specific physical response in the body. So it's physiological. It's not happening in your head. It's happening in here. And so the easiest way to think about it is your body has two modes. And because it's boring to say parasympathetic nervous system and sympathetic nervous system, I call them chill mode and freak mode. And you're either in one of the two. You can't be in both at the same time. You're either in one or the other. So chill mode is when you're relaxed and everything is just easy and digestion flows and your heart rate is even and your blood pressure goes down. And this is the mode we want to be in. But how do we spend most of our time, when we go off to work, when we're fighting through traffic, when we're trying to get our kids to listen to us? We're in freak mode. And freak mode is when you're like, oh my God, which is most of the time for most of us. It's when your heart rate goes up, your blood pressure goes up, you start to sweat, the cortisol, starts to pump out, and you're stressed out, right? And most of us, unfortunately, spend our lives more or less in freak mode because our lives are so challenging and stressful. But here is the clincher. Biology, in its infinite wisdom, has decided that if you are running away from a saber-toothed tiger, you don't want to have your attention distracted by that handsome, sexy caveman over there. So what nature has done is it has said that if you're in freak mode, it shuts down reproduction. You aren't going to get any sexy feelings on if you are in freak mode and you're kind of in that stress mode. But the minute you switch to chill mode, digestion happens. And this is key, your reproductive urges kick back in. So you literally cannot get your sexy on when you're stressed out all the time. Now, this is a problem when you think about how most of us feel when we go out on a date for the first time. When you go out on a date, yeah, you're trying to pump yourself up, but let's be honest, you're kind of stressed. Like, what if he's a serial killer? What if he thinks you're ugly? What if you say something stupid? What if, and you're stressed out the moment you open that door and you say hello to him. Now, you're good at hiding it, right? But what I'm saying is the physiological response you are stuck in is freak mode. Well, when you're in freak mode, your reproductive urges get shut down. So you can't emit sexy vibes if you're in your freak mode. So what the pleasure principle helps women do is to learn how to activate that chill mode through pleasure and emit such sexy vibes that you literally become virtual Viagra. And that's a quote from Dr. Christiane Northrup.
Whoa, that was sensational. I love that. All right, so let me make sure I grasp all this. So we need to be in chill mode so we can want to have sex. And I think this is so vital because I've seen this in relationships. And when you're stressed out all the time, that's why these couples are not having sex, right? So it also applies to when you're in a relationship, when you're married, all that, right?
Yes. And in fact, if we could talk about sex for a minute, the pleasure principle is really, really important when it comes to sex, because one of the problems that women have been taught throughout the ages is that we give sex to men to make them happy because men have a high sex drive. We need to keep them satisfied. If we don't keep them satisfied, they'll stray. Well, when I talk about the pleasure principle, I want to be very clear. I'm not talking about his pleasure at all. I'm talking about your pleasure. Because your pleasure is what activates your chill mode, which is what makes your whole body work better. So we women have been taught that our job is to give men sex to keep them satisfied, because if we don't please them in bed, they'll leave us, right? And so we have learned over all this time that sex is for men. But here's the thing. The pleasure principle is about your pleasure. It's not about his pleasure. We don't even care actually about his pleasure, because what we want to do is turn your sexy on, is activate your chill mode, is to make your entire body work better. And the only way to do that is your pleasure. So when it comes to sex, my challenge for women is to forget about him. Forget about him and ask yourself, am I reaching the heights of pleasure in every sexual experience that's possible for me? And I can already tell you the answer. The answer is no. There is no possible way you have experienced as much pleasure as you could infinitely experience, because I think, and I learned this from this wonderful woman called Janae Paylett, who's a sex and intimacy coach in San Francisco, that the older we get, the more our capacity for pleasure grows. So when you go into a sexual experience, I don't want you to worry about how your body looks to him. I don't want you to worry about whether he's enjoying himself too. What I want you to do is to say what would really feel amazing, and ask for it. Ask for it. Say, hey, I want to see how much pleasure I can actually experience in one evening. Would you help me? And I'll tell you what to do, and we'll figure this out together. And I will tell you, it will make such a difference. And guys love to help women with projects on how to increase their pleasure. Trust me on that one.
Yeah, I just want to echo what you're saying from the male perspective. So I forget what study I was reading, but I know both of us read a ton of studies. And it basically said what men enjoy most about sex is when a woman's showing great signs of enjoyment. So if she's moaning, if she's happy. So if we are getting her in her chill mode, getting her in having the best sexual experience, period, it turns out being our best sexual experience because we're seeing her face, we're seeing her expressions, we're seeing her enjoyment, and we are having a great time because we're seeing, hey, I'm doing good here. I'm doing a good job. She's enjoying it. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. So this is one of the great things about pleasure. Pleasure is contagious. So if you want to turn a guy on, forget about him. Turn yourself on. And for women, this is going to require a little bit of self-experimentation. You're going to have to figure out what your turn-ons are. You're going to have to work. You might even have to explore your own body, figure out what your hot points are. You're going to have to do a little research. But once you can do that, and you can communicate well in the bedroom and ask him for what you want, this guy is going to think you are the hottest babe he's ever been with, and he doesn't care what your body looks like. Has nothing to do with how hot your body is, but hot your body is. It has to do with how well you've trained yourself to experience pleasure.
Ooh. All right, so this is freaking awesome. I love this. But, you know, I feel like we skipped some steps. Like, we went straight to, like, we're having sex. And I want to go back to dating for a second here. Although,
Okay.
in my ideal world, we do just go straight to sex, of course. But we got to do some dating, I think. So you talked earlier about a woman going on a date, and obviously there's a lot. She's in stress mode, and she should be because, well, she shouldn't be, but unfortunately she is. But we want her in chill mode. So
Right.
how the heck do we get a woman in chill mode so that she's going to be in chill mode on the date and rock it?
Right. So one of the things I talk about in my book, The Pleasure Principle, is she needs to start owning her inner bad girl. So all of us girls, when we grow up, we really have a choice as to who we're going to become in life. We can become the good girl who does everything right, who follows all the rules that society has set out for us and gets lots of praise from our parents and teachers and such. Or we can be that naughty, naughty, terrible bad girl. And the bad girl does what she wants. She doesn't listen to anyone else. She is solely interested in her pleasure. Now, I would guess that probably most of the women watching this right now probably made the choice to be the good girl. I did too. I definitely was 100% the good girl. I tried to do everything right. But the problem is, by doing everything right, what we did was we started to prioritize society's rules over the feelings of our own heart and what's going on inside us. And so what I ask all good girls to do is I ask them to imagine that inside of them is this bad girl. And she's so naughty because all she's interested in is her own pleasure. And she's so selfish, she doesn't think about anyone else. And that bad girl isn't actually bad. She's actually a disowned part of yourself. When you had all these desires and dreams and wants, and you were told that they were selfish or, you know, they were not something good girls did, you pushed them away and you denied them and you forgot about them. But the fact is, they're still part of you, and they're not actually bad. They're actually the key to being more alive. They're actually a really important part of you. So one of the great things about the bad girl is she does not care what other people think. Like, if she makes other people angry, if she says something that offends people, she doesn't actually care. So because I'm talking to good girls, I can give you this advice because I know good girls are going to be careful to be polite. But what if when you went out on a date and you took that inner bad girl out with you on the date and you said, you know what? I actually really don't care so much about what he thinks. I really don't care so much about him. What I'm interested in is my pleasure. Am I enjoying myself? Is this giving me those little tickles of excitement in my belly? Is this making me relax? You know, am I glad that I'm out on this date with this guy rather than at home watching Netflix? And I'm going to be honest, as a woman, a lot of the times I would rather be home watching Netflix than out on a date with this guy. And it's unfortunate, but your inner bad girl says, you know what, if that's the case, I really don't care what happens. And I cannot tell you how attractive that is to men, because what you're doing is you're freeing them from having to impress you. There's no having to impress anyone going on. You're just sitting there, you're hanging out, you're checking in with yourself, you're saying, is this pleasurable? If it's not, fine, no harm done, off you go. And it really does take so much of the pressure off when you go on dates.
Oh, I freaking love this. Because it like chooses the guy, like it gets you to the partner you're meant to get to too. So not only are you now having fun on these dates because you're in pleasure world, you're in chill world, but if the guy makes sense for you, you have a great time. And if you're not having a great time, that's fine. He's never going to call you again, and you're not going to call him. But you get to the right guy this way instead of putting on this act to potentially like each other. No, forget that noise. Enjoy it. That's what
Yes.
you're getting at, right?
So one of the things that I have to give you a plug for is that I was recently talking to you about how important it is that a man feel like he can make a woman happy.
Mm-hmm.
And I just loved that. And I thought, man, how well it fits into the pleasure principle, because when you are out on a date and what you're concerned about is, do I feel pleasure? Like, do I feel lovely and relaxed and happy and just like, oh, this is so nice? If you do, you are with a man who can give you pleasure. You can respond to the way he's giving and you can receive it. That's showing that man that he can make you happy and you can receive it in a genuine way. And so that is really the great foundation for setting up a fantastic relationship.
Oh, yeah. That's awesome. All right. So pleasure principle is you got to be happy. So how is this affecting our love life as a whole, this pleasure principle?
So one of the things that we do further, we talked about dating, how it can really affect dating, that if you go on a date feeling stressed, worried about his pleasure, you're going to sabotage yourself, right? Anytime you try and make a man happy and feel good about you on that first date, you're not focusing on the most important thing, which is how you feel when you're with him. I mean, I'm going to be honest, I don't care what happens to him. I care what happens to you. And what needs to happen to you is that you pick the right person. But let's move forward now. Let's say that you've been in a relationship with this person for some time. Things aren't going so well. You've got some problems. So what most of us do is we focus on the pain. We think, this isn't working in my relationship. This isn't working in my relationship. This isn't working. Okay, so I'm going to try a self-help book. Maybe we need therapy. Maybe I need to talk to his parents. You focus on all the problems. And the more problems you focus on, the more problems you find, the bigger those problems grow, because you're focusing on, you think that the solution is to fix your problems. Sometimes that's not the solution at all. Sometimes the solution is you need to turn around and look away from your problems and look towards pleasure again. Because here's what happens in a good relationship in the beginning. It's like a massive pleasure fest, right? You go out to eat. You drink lovely wine. You eat lovely food. You go get tickets to the expensive game that you would have never gone on any other time. You indulge each other. You're just like, basking in tons of pleasure. You move in together. You go to work. You make dinner, you do the laundry, you pay the bills. Where'd the pleasure go? It's kind of gone. Maybe you've got date night once a week or something, but no wonder our relationships go downhill, because they were all about pleasure in the beginning. Now they've come back to real life and the pleasure's just vanished. So what I really encourage couples to do is, if they're struggling, obviously when you've got problems, some of them need to be fixed. Some are perpetual problems, will never be fixed. But why not turn your perspective around and see if you can move towards pleasure again? See if you can go out on the kind of dates that you used to go out on when you were first started dating. See if you can do really whole-bodied, silly pleasures like amusement parks, something that, stupid comedy movies, things that really get you back in your body, back in that simple joy. And I think, just a plug for all parents here, I think this is why we parents have kids. We have kids because kids know pleasure better than anyone else alive. Kids are like pleasure machines. I'll tell you, they can have fun with nothing more than, a stick and a puddle. My daughter used to go fishing with a stick and a little puddle. And so I'm really a fan of sticks and puddles. But this is the thing, right? When we really value pleasure, when we really value it and we think it's important, we get more of it in our life, because we make time for it, we make space for it, we relax and let ourselves go in it. And that's why I think the pleasure principle Like I said, I've got a whole book that can help teach you every step of the way how to do it. It's a lifestyle and it's a way of living, and it creates more joy all the way through.
Ah, this is awesome. I don't even know what to ask you. I kind of just want to sit here and just let you talk, because the whole time no one can see my face, but I'm just like smiling and nodding, and I'm like, this is perfect. This is exactly what a man wants, what a woman wants. This is how great relationships happen. Oh, I love this.
So I'm going to give you one more thing that's just going to knock your socks off. So this is for the ladies out there. This is not dating and relationship. You want to know one more thing pleasure can do for you? This is insane, right? Let's say you eat a very rich, high-calorie dessert, right? And you can eat it one of two ways. The first way you can eat it is just thinking, oh my God, this is so good. I can't believe how good this is. I am so lucky. This is so delicious. Then the other way you can eat it is, oh my God, I'm killing my diet. Oh, I'm going to pay for this tomorrow. Oh, it's all going to my hips. So if you eat it with pleasure instead of stress, fewer of the calories will get stored as fat, and you will get more nutrition out of that food. Now that is totally insane, right? Like, we are taught that the nutritional content of food is exactly what it says on the label, right? So many, protein, so much fat, so much carbs. So there's a new field of eating. It's called the eating psychology. Your mental state affects how well food gets digested. And they have found that when you are in chill mode, right, not only does reproduction start to happen again, but that's when digestion works optimally. So when you are in chill mode, more food of the food you eat gets turned into goodness and goes throughout your body. Less of it gets stored as fat. But if you eat food when you're stressed out, like, so all that stressed eating, that puts the weight on. When you eat food when you're stressed, like you're in your car, driving to work, you're trying to eat your breakfast in the car, you've got cars honking everywhere, you're just like, oh God, I don't want to go to work. More calories get stored as fat, and you get less nutrition out of it. So pleasure is not optional. Pleasure is essential in everything you do, from how you have sex to who you date to how you eat.
Ooh. Okay, I have one more question, if that's all right.
Okay.
Let's talk about our workaholics and really everyone that has a job, because everyone who has a job has felt stress at some point. I don't care how easy your job, how hard it is. There's a stress everywhere. Facts. Now let's talk about that job where the person's like, I need to do blah, 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 blah by then, and I can't get away from it. How does this person convince their brain that it is okay to take 10 minutes, 15 minutes to go have some pleasure throughout their day? How do we convince them that it's okay?
Well, first of all, does that person have a very healthy body? Do they have an incredibly satisfying love life? And if the answer to either of those is no, it's a matter of your health. You can either choose your job or you can choose health and love. And so pleasure is not optional. And so one of the things I very much appreciated about my own pleasure journey is that the common advice given to people who are workaholics like myself is you need to do stress reduction. You need to meditate. You need to do yoga. You need to control the thoughts in your mind, right? More work. What they don't say is something that is even more effective than all those things, which is you need more pleasure. You need more of the kind of pleasure that just you can feel it in your body. Because one of the great things about pleasure is it just makes you relax. Like when you experience something that's the sort of thing you really love, your body relaxes involuntarily. Like, petting a cat, right? How can you not just, when you're petting a cat? And it's so much more fun than stress reduction. So all of you workaholics out there, if stress reduction techniques have not worked for you, try a dose of pleasure.
Ooh, such a good point. And it is something different. Like if you're doing something to reduce stress, you're just like, all right, I guess this is better than working. But then when you do something pleasurable, you're like, yes, come on, give it to me. I want this. Ah, that's so genius. I love it. All right. Is there one piece of advice that you'd like to give, or should we move on to your free gift? Where are we at this point?
Well, I think we're almost to the free gift, but there is one, I say this in every interview because I can't emphasize it enough. There is one thing, if there's one thing you can do and take away aside from the importance of pleasure, and that is don't do this alone. Like for women, not so much for men, but for women, we are overcoming centuries, if not thousands of years of conditioning, of self-sacrifice, and putting our needs below everyone else's. This is not easy. When I say pleasure is wonderful and you should do it, you think, yeah, but I bet you're going to go away tomorrow. You're going to go back to how you were. It is really, really hard to make the shift to prioritizing pleasure. So what I suggest to women is to get a pleasure posse together. And your pleasure posse is a group of women who hold each other accountable for the amount of pleasure they're having in their lives. And you talk to each other about pleasure. You make opportunities to experience pleasure together, and you make it safe, right? So when a woman in, one of your pleasure posse says, oh, I'd really love to do this, but I don't have the money, and what will people think? And I really should do something responsible. You can say, hey, will that give you an enormous amount of pleasure? Then maybe it's worth it. So have your pleasure posse.
Yeah, can I just give one more plug on this whole thing?
Yeah.
So I'm the man, and I'm speaking for the male population here. And literally, we just bounce, like we're in a relationship with a woman or we're dating a woman, and we're just bouncing from moment to moment thinking, I want her to be happy. Because when she's happy, we've heard that saying, like, happy wife, happy life. Men, literally, that is what our bane of existence is. When she's happy, when she's smiling ear to ear, all we're thinking is, bam, I did my job. Like, I'm a good boyfriend. I'm a good husband. So with this pleasure principle that she's talking about, you're going to be happy like a lot of the time. You're going to be in chill mode a lot of the time. And as a man, all we're doing is like, I did it. I gave her this life. And we will take credit for this. And so that's what she's empowering you to do. And it's so beautiful. And especially as women, like I talk to women all the time that, single mom at this point, divorced. And I know how you women are. You give everything to your kid, to your kids, to your job, to everything. And you're in stress mode and you never, ever do anything for yourself. And that's why you're not smiling ear to ear, because you need to take a moment for yourself and go have this pleasure. So that a man is just like, yeah, I got involved. Like, all I did was take her on a date, but she's already happy. So if you've got this pleasure and this happiness in this chill mode, I mean, a man just going to come into the life and he's like, wow, I found the perfect woman because she's so happy. She's so pleasurable. I just want to be around her. Is that, sorry, I went on a super tangent.
I love it. Well, like I said, this is a revolution. We women have spent enough of our lives living for other people and making other people happy. And we've forgotten the fact that when you're happy, the whole world's brighter.
I love this. This was one of my favorite interviews, and I just did, about like 50 in a row. So this was phenomenal, and I learned a lot. Thank you. Amy, you are absolutely fabulous. And I love that you're got the Pleasure Posse. This is beautiful. I know you want to give away a free gift. And guys, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop it in the description of the YouTube video. And I'm also, I'm going to pin it as the top comment. So there's no way you guys can't find this thing. Amy, what free gift are we giving?
Right. So I am giving away a free chapter of my book, The Pleasure Principle, just so you can see how powerful this information is. It's called The 3 A's of Effortless Attraction. And you can get it using the link Mike's going to give you.
Yes. Ooh, a free chapter. I got to read this book. I'm pumped. This is my next reading material, I think. Amy, we're going to talk about this. I got to figure out where to get this thing.
Well, I'm going to be excited to see if you believe that the pleasure principle needs to be translated to men too. For me, this is such a necessary antidote for what women have gone through, but I do wonder if men need the pleasure principle too.
It's interesting. You're absolutely right. Like men are, for whatever reason, geared up as different from women, that we just are selfish and we do go for, but some men don't. I've, put myself in a place where sometimes I don't. So this is going to be good for me. But yes, you are right. A lot of men already are very good at this. But anyway, you are fabulous. Thank you so much for coming on here. I learned a lot. And guys, we'll have a video every single Tuesday, and we're going to ramp it up. What do you guys put in the comments? What day do you want me to start doing a second video? Thursday? Thursday, everybody? Thursday, cool. Let me know what day you prefer, what works best with your schedule. I want to accommodate you guys, and I'll plop it on there. Amy, thanks again. And
Thank
everybody,
you,
we'll
Mike.
see you next week. Bye, Amy. Bye,
Bye.
everybody.